one. Welcome everyone to part two. Thank you for sliding into our DMs. My name is Dan,
I'm Montana.
and we are going to continue our conversation into being young and disabled because we had a wonderful conversation going on in part one. And in part one, we ended that with talking about being kind to each other and how kindness can go a really long way in our community. It's something that I know on my end it was outside of my family and my doctors, I never really had concerning my disability. And it felt like I was just in this bubble of people that never understood it. Um, and I think one thing that has helped a lot, especially like getting more people connected and realizing that we're not alone and that we can support each other and being kind is social media for better or worse. You can say whatever you want about social media, but I have met so many incredible people through it. And I wouldn't have met Montana if it wasn't through social media. Met on we were going to be doing that talk at One Rare, and I connected with you on LinkedIn prior.
Yep. Yep. I remember that. Yes. Yeah. Social media has been a very good blessing. However, it does have its downsides sometimes. But like we were saying in the part one of the episode of just being kind towards everyone, I feel like social media would be such a better tool. I think it's an amazing tool already as it is, but better tool if people are a little bit more aware of what they say. Because I follow a lot of video creators that I love, and they post on their stories about, hey, you guys, just a FYI, I'm a real person. You saying I look like this or you commenting about this, it can hurt my feelings, just letting you know. And I'm like, oh wow, I did not know people still did that. Like put not nice comments on other people's posts. I don't really post anything on social media. I just use it to keep in touch with people. I need to get better with social media, but I don't know if I will because I'm kind of terrified to post a little bit. Full disclaimer, um, because of those comments and everything. But
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
and
it's a great tool for sure.
I think that's something too. Like especially like for a lot of young people in our whole community, a lot of people have gained that confidence about sharing their experience with disability and their
Mhm.
life, then going into like vlogs or posts. And like for me, in my
Yes.
sense, like I do my social media posts, but I try to keep myself out of it. Like I want to talk about the issues and the rhetoric
Hmm.
that goes around and like the history and the culture of disability. But it is
Yeah.
unfortunate, like sometimes where certain people use certain phrases or certain things that it just like it's stuff that we've heard our whole life, like things like here the R word casually used or people defending
Oh yeah.
certain stances that are pro eugenics or anything like that. Like it's
Hmm.
tough, like especially for us being young, like it does make us seem like we are disposable people or like subhuman within our able-bodied society.
Yeah. 100%. Question, because I know you're more active on social media than I am, because I just usually use it for messaging like my friends with DMs or reels of like the people I follow. So I don't really post much, maybe on my story like every time to time. Have you ever like given yourself like a detox from social media? And if you did, like why?
I personally have never done that.
Okay.
I think it's something that for me, I find that good balance in the sense of there's so much that you can see that's bad on social media talking about like disparaging things towards disabled people or this horrible
Hmm.
news or that thing that it can definitely burn you out or drive you away from it. But I think it's that healthy balance of knowing that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to control what everyone says. And there's horrible rhetorics. And
Hmm.
I will always stand up and say that they're wrong. But at the end of the day, I'm only one person. And I think that's something that for a lot of us in the disabled community, we just have to give ourselves that grace too. I think a lot of us put the world on our shoulders on all things, whether that's us bearing the
Hmm.
burden of our disability alone, whether it's us trying to live up to the beliefs of what our society thinks that we need to be, or that we're pretending that we're healthy or trying to be on social media or whatever have you. I think at the end of the day, we just have to give ourselves a lot of grace. Otherwise, we are going to end up burning ourselves out, and that we can only control what we can control.
Yeah, I love all those points that you were saying, especially the point of what is in our control. I know personally, not with social media aspect, but overall with work and just everything else I'm involved in outside of work and like family life. I'm a person, like you were saying, put the weight on my shoulders. I have very high expectations for myself, which can be good, but it also has its downside. So I have to catch myself being like, what's in your control, Montana? Is this really in your control, or is it something completely else? And that has helped me figure out what's feasible and not feasible with what's going on like in my life at that time, especially where I am health wise. Because sometimes it's really great. Like, yes, this is really feasible when I'm healthy. However, in a month or two from now, am I going to be 85% healthy like I was before? Who knows? So being very gracious with myself, like you were saying, um, knowing where you're at that moment. But that's also interesting to note that you've never done like a detox from social media. I know my friends who use social media a lot more than me, every like 3 or 4 months, they're like, oh, I'm going to like delete the Instagram app for a little bit. Oh, I'm like getting rid of this. Like it was too much. I was like you were saying, experiencing burnout and just not a great effect of it. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I've never really deleted like my Instagram app before. I did delete Snapchat because I was on there a lot. And I was like, I want to spend more time in 2024 not on my phone, like actually enjoying like other people's company, reading, and just possibly binging some TV shows, you know? I'm being completely transparent right now. Um,
I love those goals. Sounds like you have a great resolution.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's something that like I've that feeling of burnout especially was something that really rang true to me. And like without like outside of the social media world, but for me, well, I guess it does kind of relate to social media, but I felt a lot of burnout in the sense of like I felt like I wasn't doing enough within the community and that I
Mhm.
felt a lot of pressure to continue either making posts with disability rewritten or this idea of I need to continue being an advocate as much as I can in every situation and feeling like what I'm doing is not enough. And I think that's maybe like a combination of burnout and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But for me, like as a young disabled person, I want to be able to make my mark on the world and I want to be able to help people the best that I can because I know what it's like to not receive that help. And I know how important it is to discuss these topics and what importance these things have. And while I can like go to the town square and go on a microphone and talk about these, unfortunately that's
Yes.
not going to get to as many people. And for me, it was just like that idea of is what I'm doing enough? And also burning myself out because I felt like I needed to keep doing more and more and I was getting myself tired. And I think the way that I have found this kind of peace is knowing that doing something is better than doing nothing and that I'm making a decision to a make change. And I think if I didn't make a decision, if I didn't make that step, that's a huge
Mhm.
decision that impacts a lot of people and that I am trying in this world. And I think that's something that a lot of young people don't understand or that struggle to understand is that idea of like if we just try and that if we
Mhm.
put our foot forward and we expect that there is the chance of failure, but at the end of the day, we know that we can get back up and fight, that our friends will be there to support us, that we can keep trying to do the right thing, and that it's not to belittled if we only can do this amount this time, or that it only
Mhm.
impacted one person. Because if you change just one person's opinion or perspective on the world, you're changing the world.
Yeah, 100%. I've experienced that myself a lot, the imposter syndrome, as well as with advocacy, just being like, okay, how can I do more? And I found myself when I wanted to do more, I put way too much items on my plate, being like, yes, 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 like, yes. And it sounds great in that moment. However, later on, when you are sent to the ER or you have other things going on, it's like, oh, yes, I really want to provide this, but then you're beating yourself up, being like, I'm not in the best place physically as well as mentally to do this. So having that realization of it's okay to take a step back and ask for help or be like, hey, I cannot do this much that you like need from me. Like, can we like try to do different things? I know for myself the last few months, I've been trying not to put too much things on my plate because I have not been great health wise. I'm hoping in 2024 I'm going to be a lot better. That's my actual New Year's resolution is anything related to health and just getting back into a better stable position where I'm at. But I completely hear everything that you were saying regarding that. I feel like we, as disabled people or just even as young adults, we put a lot of expectations on our shoulders and we want to shoot for the skies and do this, this, and this. And if we don't do everything that we intended, then we like beat ourselves up like a punching bag. I can't
Yeah.
speak for everyone, but I feel like that's what's been happening with me, especially with my disability getting a little bit worse, with having immunosuppressants, making me like more sick. I'm just like, oh my God, I could have done this before. But I'm like, wait, this is out of my control, me being sick at this moment, and such. So I think everything you touched on is very important to keep in mind that no matter what you do, as long as you stay true to yourself and what you're doing is a passion project or giving you energy and you connect possibly with just that one person, that is change. You don't have to create this whole company, do this marketing campaign, do all this, like put all the fires out. It's great if you can. No one expects that from you,
Yeah.
usually, from what I've seen.
Exactly.
It's what we build in our mind saying, oh, we have to do this and then this and this. And then it takes us
Yeah.
so much longer to crawl back after it started falling down.
Yeah. And I think two two points to follow up on that. There was one of the greatest lessons I learned from one of my mentors in life. They told me that if I never allow myself to get to 100%, I'm never gonna get there. Um, and that's something that, while as disabled people, our 100% is different than other people's 100%. It rings true in
Mhm,
that sense of, if we always put that pressure on ourselves to do things and we're always moving, we're never relaxing, we're never giving ourselves some self-love or treating ourselves, we're never going to be able to actually make the change that we want, because we're just going to tire ourselves out. Our bodies will give out, our minds will give out, anything like
mhm,
that. We need to be able to give ourselves that time to really love ourselves and give ourselves that time where we can step back, whether that's from work or advocacy or anything, and just
mhm.
really think about all the good that we've done. And that's something too, that perspective of, for us, like, it can be so easy to belittle the talks or the
Yeah.
accomplishments that we've done.
Mhm,
And other people look at us and they have that perspective of what we've done is incredible. And I remember specifically, it was my junior year of college, and I was around the time I was thinking I didn't want to be a teacher anymore, because I originally gone to college to be a teacher. And I wanted to go I was thinking about going into politics. But I was still like holding on to that idea of like, I could still be a teacher. I want to do this.
mhm,
And my English professor, um, I was having office hours with her, and I was having a little bit of like a spiral. And she was like, well, she's like, Dan. And she's like, because I had spoken at Harvard a couple months ago. She's like, Dan, you know how many people I would have killed to speak at Harvard? I was like, no.
mhm,
She's like, look at what you've done already in that. She's like,
mhm,
I couldn't even dream of doing that. And it was like that really realization of like, wow, like I did do that. That is something that not a lot of people have done or would have the courage to or have the opportunity to or
mhm.
anything. And it really gave me that perspective of, wow, like I can actually do this, and that the only thing holding me back is just myself, and that I was thinking that I wasn't worthy or capable of actually doing it. And yeah, that Professor Navarrete, if you're listening to this, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, see, another example of you killing it. Just
Thank you.
saying.
Thank you.
But I completely get where you're coming from. I've never spoken like at Harvard, so not that experience, but at work, I've I'm really hard on myself. I always want to give like 100% every day. And my old manager at a time, we had like a one-on-one and she's like, Montana, let's have like heart to heart. I'm like, okay. And I was like, oh gosh, what's happening? And she was basically like, I don't even give 100% like every day. She's like, you are going through a lot right now and you are keep trying to give 100%. It's okay to come in and only have 80% for that day. It's okay to only have 75%. It's okay to give yourself more self-compassion on what you're going through. Like, it's okay not to have the bar set so high. Yes, you're meeting your goals, but you don't need to meet your goals like 200 times the amount that we put for your goal setting. Like, do less. And that was like the first time that I had like a moment of, wait, is she pranking me? At first was first thought I had. And then second, after the meeting, I reflected a lot. I'm like, huh, I'm curious. Like, do people bring 100% if they're able body? That's what I was curious about. Um, and so I started talking to a few other coworkers who that I know like are able body, and they were saying like, oh, some days like they're just so tired because they have kids or like life balance, all this, that they sometimes just bring like 70%. Usually it's like on a Friday because the week has been long with working 4 days a week. While other people are like, oh, yeah, I'm really productive in the morning, while at this time I'm not productive. So then I do this. So they were creating their schedules to work well for them. Um, and then I started thinking, why were we never taught this? I was 22 at the time with this conversation, and like all my other companies that I've been to before, we were never taught self-compassion, balance, and overall like reflection on what works for us with where we're at that time.
No, I agree with you. I think we're never taught to pace ourselves or to take care of ourselves or really have that time to reflect. And I think that's something in combination with us as disabled people, like we feel like we need to compensate because people are judging us because of our disability, or that people think that we're not going to be able to accomplish as much or do this,
Mm-hmm.
or we have that mindset of we want to always prove people wrong,
Mm-hmm.
that it can really drive us into the ground because we want to do so much or we're trying to do so much. When in reality, we're just one person and we're one person
Mm-hmm.
going through a lot that other people don't go through. And we're trying to build good in our lives just like everyone else. And I think that we're just like everyone else. We may be a little different with, us being disabled and them being able-bodied, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're allowed to act like an able-bodied person. We may not be, but like if someone is giving that 70%, or like after 2 p.m., like kind of it's like I'm kind of checking out for the rest of the day, or like Fridays are just not my day. Like we're allowed to do that. Like we're humans,
Mm-hmm.
we don't do anything different that an able-bodied person does. Like, we don't eat food differently. We don't do this or that differently. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a lot to like think about with that like moving forward. Because I know like myself, like you were saying, we have tried to do as much as we can because we're trying to compensate for what we like may not have or whatever. And I feel like I have it with a double whammy because I'm not only disabled with like my chronic illnesses, but also I work remotely. And I feel like having the layer of working remote, it has so many benefits. Let me just say, I love remote. I probably will never go back to not working remote. However, the first few months of doing remote, even sometimes now, I feel like I have to prove myself because my manager is not in the office watching me work, all this aspect. So I'm over here just trying to do as much as I can, meet those goals, go above the goals and all this because I'm like, okay, I work remote. I want to make sure they know like I'm working, like I can get paid, like I am a good worker. And then secondly, I do have a chronic illness and I do get out sometimes with being sick. And with me being sick for a few days, I come back and I feel like I need to play catch up all the time. And I'm like, wait, no, this is not right. It's okay to give like 50, like 70%, whatever it is. But I have caught myself multiple times having to make myself step away from what I'm working on at work to actually like go take care of like my eyes, like my body, like my mind, my soul, and everything of getting water, getting me a snack, going for a walk, having a lot more breaks because my eyes have been in a lot more pain recently in the past like month. So I'm trying to get more breaks. But it's really hard when in our society it's go, go, go
Yeah.
all the time. And then even with disability, chronic illness, whatever someone is going through, um, we feel like we still need to prove ourselves, which we
Yeah.
don't.
I think that's something that I echo a lot of how you feel with like I have a hybrid job, so 3 of my days are remote. And
Mhm.
I always feel like that pressure need to be like I need to tell my supervisor like everything that I did this day. So that way like they don't think like, like I just sat and watched TV all day or something.
Yeah.
And I remember one time my supervisor I I work in like the camping industry. And my supervisor was like telling me like because I was like sending all that stuff. He's like, you don't have to do that. Like at the end of the day, like we're not doing brain surgery. We're not saving lives. It's not like an
Hmm.
emergency. Like at the end of the day, we're working at an outdoor education center. It's not that deep. It's not that, like when we get work done, we get work done. And
Yeah.
when there's more of a crunch time, that's when we'll take it a little more seriously, but like nothing's really happening at this time. I was like, okay. And it's tough too, like sometimes like when we finish projects, like especially for us being young and like wanting to move up in our career, sometimes being like, oh, like if we finish our project, like, oh, is there something new that we could take on or something available? And sometimes there
Yeah.
just isn't. And it's weird like feeling like we're sitting on our hands, but sometimes that's what work is. Like there's only so much work to work on. And as young people, I think anyone in general in our situations trying to move up in our career, trying to balance a disability in life, like sometimes there just isn't a lot to do, and we should embrace that time rather than trying to put that
Oh my
pressure to
gosh.
prove ourselves because that's what at the end of the day burns us out or makes
Yes.
us in a situation that isn't as healthy as we
Hmm.
need to.
Oh my gosh, yes, to like everything you're saying. I know with me personally, when I have like a slow day, I feel like I jinx myself. I'm like, oh, it's a slow day, like it's not as busy. And then literally like the next day or the day after that, I have like 15 meetings or more. And I'm like, I cannot even get like a water break. Like, what is happening? So yes, definitely take that time and space of when we have those slow time periods. If it's like a day in your week or if it's a season depending on what your job is, take that for yourself. Like, of course, do work. I'm not saying like watch TV and like not do work, but if it's slower than usual, use that to your advantage on possibly developing a skill if you want to, if you have professional development at your company, or just be more self-aware and understand like, okay, this is the calm before the storm and allow yourself to take more breaks, have more rest so you do not have burnout. Because
Exactly.
having burnout with what else we have going on, being disabled, is not a great combo from what
Not
I've
at all.
experienced. Like, no.
That's yeah, like share a different example. So prior to the new place that I work at, I worked at a different area in the camping industry. And it was a place that didn't have that mentality. It was a place that was always like work, work, work. We're gonna create things. We come in super early hours. Like there were times where like, and this is normal in the camping industry. There's nothing nefarious or illegal, but like you'd come in at like 6:45 in the morning, and you wouldn't get out until like 9 p.m. And we had this one week where it was this one school that came from Monday to Friday for a field trip. So it was like all week they were staying overnight. We had activities all the time, and we were working all day, and it was the Thursday night, and my body just like it gave out, it collapsed. Like I was just like
Oh
I
gosh.
can't do it anymore. Um
No.
and I went to the ER. And it was something like I tried to like be like, no, I'm okay. Like I don't need to, like I'm good.
Mhm.
But like no, like my body was just like gave out because like I there's just so much it was not only just like the amount of work I was going in, but it was also like I was trying to create that experience for all of the kids. I put a lot of pressure to like have a great class, make sure like if I was doing
Mhm.
anything like high ropes wise, keeping everything safe, um, keeping it entertaining. Like there's just a lot to do. And it was, yeah, and it just that like it was that moment where I realized like I still love this industry and I still want to be a part of it, but I need to find a different way that I could be a part of it rather than this continuous grind. And I was really happy to find a place that has a much better work culture, a better work-life balance,
Mhm.
supervisors that respect boundaries. Um, yeah, and that's something that it is unfortunate that I had to go through that bad situation to realize just how good I can have it and the good that I deserve and the good that I know that everyone deserves.
Yeah, 100%. Goodness, I'm so sorry that happened with the experience of burnout as well as it causing a health like issue. Like I'm so sorry that happened. I've had something not entirely like similar, but I've experienced burnout where I've just been completely on bed rest, which is never fun. But I think it's really important, like you were saying, like having like your boundaries of not even just for work, but like personal life with like your friends, like any other commitments that you're doing outside, just knowing what your values are and knowing what boundaries you need for not only your physical well-being, but as well as your mental well-being moving forward so you don't have burnout like you were saying with your experience. But also if you are at a place or if you're in a situation where you're experiencing that, that it's okay to look at other options. Like you deserve to have more. Like you deserve more. So it's okay to look at other options and do what's best for you because you have to be with yourself the rest of your life. So we want to make sure we're happy with where we're at. And I feel like it's can be hard to finally accept that truth of I need to have a change because change is scary, no matter what we do, but it can also be very invigorating and amazing if you take that leap,
I
to have something better.
I agree entirely. And I think that one thing that holds us back, like especially like a lot of young people, is that idea of like we don't have time and that we need to commit to
Mm,
one thing because we're not allowed to make a change in our life or we invested so much into this and it's like a sunk cost fallacy at this point. And for
yeah.
us, like we're to really put in perspective, like we're both in our early 20s. A lot of people in their early 20s, teens, even late 20s or early 30s, mid 30s,
Mm,
there's still so much time to change. And if there's something that you don't like, you can start taking those steps to pursue the passions that you love and find joy in, and that you can do a change that helps not only you, but if you're in a better situation, you can help the people around you, help your friends, family, society, just anything. And I think a lot of people feel scared to take that step and we're justifiably so. Like it's scary not knowing like if I take this risk and I don't get it, then how am I gonna pay rent or how am I gonna
hmm.
afford school or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'd rather have taken risks in my life knowing that I could fail rather than be afraid to not take those risks and try that thing that I was passionate about or that I cared about.
Yeah. Asking yourself, what if?
Yeah.
Um, I know with me, whenever I think about putting myself out there or doing something different, I ask myself, okay, in 5 years from now, will I regret not doing this? Like applying for that job, trying this advocacy work, like anything that I have like my eye on, like will I regret this in 5 years? And then putting in that perspective of being like, hey, like why not try it? It I don't know, it
It's
helps
very
you move
liberating.
forward. Yeah. Yes.
It's really liberating to try something and no matter how hard or if it goes well or doesn't, like for I think two examples of one that went really well and one didn't. One that went really well was when I took the risk to write my book. And that was something that for me, like it's funny. The reason that it even came up as an idea was I basically trauma dumped on an admissions counselor, and they were like, "Wow, that was really fascinating and interesting. Like, I'd read about that." And I was talking to my coworker the next day, and she was like, "If you write the first 10 pages, I'll proofread it for you." And then like it became more and more real the more that I wrote. And then I got towards the end, I was like, wow, am I actually going to publish this? What if it doesn't sell well? What if it doesn't? It's cost
Mhm.
a lot to publish. And I was like, just screw it. I'm going to do it. I'm happy. And I'm still proud of how everything ended up and turned out. And like a thing that didn't work for me, it was like I took a job in politics in late 2022 or yeah, late 2022. And it ate away at me. It it was something that I thought was a big dream of mine that I thought was going to be in a position to help people. And unfortunately, the organization did not have that belief, and there was a lot of toxicity with it, and it ate away with me. But
Oh, wow.
I I'm grateful to have had that experience so early on in my life because that way
Mhm.
I know I want to avoid that type of culture. I want to avoid those types of people. I want to avoid
Mhm.
those types of slimy organizations that have the guise of helping people, but in reality are not doing that. Um,
Yeah.
and in a way, yes, it was bad, but I'm also grateful because those bad experiences helped me learn so much. And I learned so much from that failure.
Yeah, it definitely helps you have a different perspective and growth mindset per se of being like, hey, I've tried this position and I thought it was going to be a dream. However, it's not. um, how can I move forward from this and use what I learned from this position and understand myself even more to move forward, such as knowing what company culture you want moving forward, such as not having what you had previously. So all the experiences that we're equipped with, good, bad, ugly, whatever they are, it helps us move forward not only in like our professional life, but also in our personal life and just keep growing as individuals because we're all supposed to change. But change is not a bad thing. It can be a wonderful and beautiful thing. It's like a flower. I used to hate change so much that I had to start thinking of something
It's a
that's like,
beautiful comparison,
yeah,
but
I'm like, what's a good comparison? And I always think of a flower that my mom does is an amaryllis. She does it every like holiday season. Mine's blooming right now. I had a late bloom this year. It usually blooms like right before Christmas time, and it's really like vibrant pink. And I'm like, wow, I started out as a bulb and now it has four huge blooms on it. I'm like, this is a change that's progressing over time. And that's us with every season of life that we're encountering, depending on where we are with our health. So I think it's important to note that and not be scared of it, but embrace what can happen in this incredible life that we are given. Yes, we have a lot of setbacks due to being well, I don't want to say a lot of setbacks, but we have different setbacks than able bodies. But we do have a great community that we can utilize and great resources. And there's wonderful things that everyone can do, depending on where they want to go. So,
yeah. And I think that's something that, yeah, for no matter what we're going through, our community can grow together and become those beautiful flowers that
yes,
change over time. And sometimes our petals go away,
yes,
and sometimes we bloom anew. And I think that's the
rebloom,
bloom. Yes, that's the word.
rebloom. Yeah.
And I think that is the most beautiful way to end this conversation of young and disabled as we grow older, our us in disabled community, we're young now, but as we
Mhm.
continue to grow, we're going to be older. We're going to be in our 30s and 40s, and there's going to be the next generation of young adults. And I'm so excited to help mentor them and really help give them that guidance. And I know you are as well.
Yes,
And
100%.
I'm curious how these conversations will change in 20 years when I'm 44.
Oh,
And
goodness.
yeah,
Oh,
but
goodness.
yeah, I don't want to start thinking about my 40s just yet. But
Yeah, me either.
I am so grateful for all of you who came to listen to both parts of us today.
Yes, thank you.
It was so thankful that you slid into our DMs. I'm so glad that you all listened to us. We will be back in 2 weeks where we're going to be talking about spoons and how we manage them, and we are very excited to share all of that as well. If you would be so kind, we would love to hear any feedback from these first two episodes. We would love if you would like and subscribe. If there are any questions, you can reach out to us on social media. We can include our links in the description. Uh, and yeah, thank you so much for listening. And we hope to see you in our next episode. Bye
Yeah.
for now.
Bye. Thank you.